Steve and I, like I said, have been married for almost 14 years now, and have known each other for like 26. It's been a long road, and it just, we have good days, we have bad days, and the intentional part is that we make the time for each other once a month, and we trade off months. I am odd months this year. I get to plan the date, and it can be something as simple as just a game night at home, just the two of us after the kids go to bed, and then it builds. We were able to go away because of his job. He has to go to conferences, so it's a weekend away. I'm able to go with him. The hotel room is paid for. So it's a nice weekend. He gets his part of the work done that he needs to do. I can go out and do my thing during the day, but at night it's for us. So we make that an intentional relationship to do this. So what I wanted to talk about was some of the things that we do to make that connection. And it doesn't have to just be, with your spouse. Some of these are, but there's other things that you can do to, bond with your children, to bond with friends, to bond with other family members. I know that my dad is going through a tough time right now. Some of his friends, he realizes he's getting older. His friends are getting sick, his friends are passing, and he's realizing he doesn't have the connection he wants with us. So he is making that intentional relationship with us to do things. So one of the things that I did with Steve, and he said it was his favorite, so I wanted to share it, was when it was my turn to plan a date night, I was planning something low-key at home, but I love to scrapbook and I love to create art. So for every hour that he was out of the house for the day, I had him open a card, and each one said something different, either something that I appreciate about him. I asked him to do something for me. So I said, I know everything about your life. I am not there with you at work. Take a picture of what you see right now. So he just happened to be at a job site with a client, so he literally took a picture of the job site because that's what he saw, that's what he was dealing with. And it was a way for us to connect in a different way. So I had all of those, and he said that was his favorite thing because it was something he could look forward to each hour. It was like counting down. It made the day go faster. It made it go better for him. We buy a lot of stuff at Five and Below because you can find amazing stuff there. I found a book called You and Me, and I took a few weeks to fill it out. But it's just little things. Well, that page I missed apparently. My favorite Just Us joke is, and then it's just little things that only him and I would know. Like it says, a little horse, phrasing. That's what she said. Everybody knows that one. Like everyone knows that's what she said. But just little things like this. And when I was finished it, I gave it to him, and it was something that he could just read on his own and get the little jokes and get the little things that we talked about. Other date night things that we do is my top 10. So again, you can still see the sticker on it. It's from Five and Below. There's different top 10 lists in it. So this is people I'd trade places with for a day, websites, greatest people, best places to live, and you can fill them out as you go through. So it's just, and then I bought 2 of them. So that way he fills one out, I fill one out. And then we sit there and we compare. It's like, oh, that's your favorite actor too? He's my favorite actor. Just little things that build that connection again. He bought this one for my birthday, and we haven't gone through it yet. And I couldn't even tell you where he got it, but it's King and Queen. And again, it's questions and answers. So the first one is, what was your first impression of me? There's a space for him to write, there's a space for me to write. And again, it's just another way to reconnect. So that's how Steve and I have decided to do this. And again, it's every other month, or every other month is mine. And it's just to get that bond. No kid talk, no work talk. It is just about us. And if you make that intent, it doesn't let the turkey grow dry. And you can use it, like Zoe's going to talk about, you can use it for other aspects of your life too, to set that intent. To then branch into you, I made the intent with my children, especially more this year. Norman started middle school, Jack's, as he calls it, king of the world, in 5th grade at his elementary school. And usually back to school shopping we do together. So 3 of us, we go to Walmart, we get everything they need. I broke it up this year. I just took Norman. We went to lunch. We went to Walmart. I got to hear what he was worried about going into a new school, going into sixth grade. And many of you know, if you follow me on Facebook, that Norman had a significant mouth injury this summer. So that his confidence took a hit. So we wanted to make sure that we had that time with him to reassure him. And here, his mouth was the least worry that he had going to school. He was worried about getting lost. He was worried about being late for class. They were his two biggest worries. And I'm like, they are the easiest things to fix. Of everything in middle school, you do not need to worry about being late. You do not need to worry about finding your classes. There's going to be somebody to help you every step of the way. And then Jack, I was able to bond with him about his intentions for the school year. So that's how I make intentions in our lives. And I know Zoe's going to talk about her girls, so I wanted to touch on my kids real quick.
Yeah, and I love how, what you guys do together, because I don't know, again, sometimes the therapist in me comes out, but John and Julie Gottman, who are like the gods of marriage work, they're out in Seattle. They are research-based only, so I love the fact that they have what's called the Love Labs, and they witness couples together, and they can determine within 90, their numbers change sometimes, 90-some% rate by watching couples argue if they will stay together or not. So, and I know, I got chills.
Did they work with Greek couples?
Oh, they will work with anyone. They like a challenge.
If you watch us argue, you will think we'll get a divorce the next minute.
Yeah, go challenge them. I'm sure they're up for it. I'm sure they've seen it all.
26 years.
There is. I love it. And there's nothing wrong with passion. And so one of the things you're actually talking about is they call them love maps. Right, so I have my couples, and I do this with my kids as well, is there's like 60 different questions. Like, what is your favorite movie? What is the biggest stressor you're dealing with now? We don't ask those questions day to day. And yet, and people are like, what do you mean? What is her top 3 favorite movies? I go, can you tell me? Well, 10 years ago, they were this. I go, do you know how many movies she's seen? So we stop asking. And I think we just get so, so that's beautiful, that you guys.
And it reminded me, I'm sorry, one of the other things, like we've gone to concerts together, and we have that hour-long drive. So one of us will pull up on Facebook, like, things to ask on a first date, so we'll go through them. But it's as simple as, what's your favorite movie? But it gets us to rethink, because, our favorite movie now is different than when it was when we went on our first date. So to re-ask the first date questions, like it was fun to do.
And it builds foundations. I think like some people are like, who cares what their favorite movie is? At the end of the day, it doesn't, really, that part isn't what matters. It's the idea that you really truly know what significantly is going on in a person's life. Because if you think about it, most of us really couldn't say what each of the people in our lives, except, and I don't do Facebook. I mean, I'm very much, and this is where I lead into this too. I do not watch television. That is intentional. People don't believe me. I say, come to my home. We actually have not had Wi-Fi for the last 3 weeks, and it pained me to call RCN and ask them to come out to fix it. We've played, we've talked. My kids they figured out the hotspot on my phone. So, but that is gone, because according to my phone plan, you only have so much hotspot. So I'm loving that too. But my children, again, this is my intention. My children go to very specific schools. 2 of them go to a Waldorf method school, which believes in no screens at all. They are child-centered. They believe in playing. They play in mud, snow. They play in 30-degree weather, 20-degree weather. As long as they're not going to be hurt, they play in everything possible. And again, I also believe, though, that, having a 15, 12, and 7-year-old who know more about things that I would ever know, I have to be aware that this is still important to them. I don't have to have a Snapchat account, but they do. And I have to be aware of what a Visco girl is. Please look it up if you don't know what this is.
No idea.
Oh, well, you need to know. And it's not negative, but these are things that our kids are talking about. Yeah. And if I wasn't paying attention to those things, I would have no connection to my girls. You know, I would be outdated, and you know, they appreciate the fact that I am aware of, you know, what music they're listening to. I went to New York this last week and saw Tyler, the Creator. Again, a lot of people have no idea who he is, but he was the most magnificent artist I've ever seen. I didn't know half the words. There was a lot of cursing. But my two older girls, my two older girls were smiling. They were connecting, and they were connecting with each other. And that's a memory I will never, ever, you know, be able to replace. And it's also interesting because there's one person that if you guys look up, and he is on YouTube, he's considered an American poet. His name is Prince E.A. And one of the videos that I really, really encourage you guys to watch is Can We Autocorrect Humanity? And that, he talks about every topic under the sun, but one specific, and my kids actually told me about this gentleman, and we're obsessed with him because he talks about how we're broken as a society, in how we are constantly at dinner on our phones, and that is one of my pet peeves, and I'm sorry if people do this, but literally my phone stays in the car. There is nothing that important that I need to do at dinner when I'm with anyone. Half the time my phone's on silent. I drive my family crazy. They can't get in touch with me. You are the most important person to me. It's off right now, and I need to connect with you. You know, whoever it is. It's you right now, baby.
That's all right.
But, you know, it's also interesting, and I know I kind of go all over the place, it's just the way my mind works, is that everyone knows who Chip and Joanna Gaines are, right? Okay, they now have stopped their television show and now are there themselves. Their children do not watch television. There is no television in their home, and yet they have made their money on television. And I thought, how ironic. And yet I respect them because even though they were able to make their money this way, they, you know, their love or their passion for their children and the things they've built for them, you know, is more important to them than having a television in the home. So
well, what I like about them too is they, for as popular as they are, they don't work outside of Texas, out of their area of Texas, because they want to be with their family. They want to be close to their family because they know how long a project takes. They don't want to be away from their family for that amount of time. So they stay, Waco, right, is where they are. They stay within the Waco, Texas area. And I find that admirable.
Yeah.
That they don't want to be away from their family or take their family with them to do that.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I think it's just one, you know, for instance. And again, I'm certainly never suggesting, because sometimes my clients look at me like, you want me to do what? You know, I'm like, you don't have to do all of this. You don't have to live the way that I live. Most people don't know these things about me, you know, because again, unless they ask, it's not important. But I find that there's so much more that we can be doing. And my kids do. We have many iPads in our home. We have many phones. You know, we have all of these pieces, but, you know, I make it more difficult for all of us to access them intentionally. And then there's moments where we need to, you know, disconnect and do those things. We were saying on our phone call, right? I said, maybe I need to have a better relationship with television. You know, and that might sound silly, but it's like maybe there's things that I'm missing, or that I'm missing enjoyment, you know, that I could connect with. And so I tend to go, you know, I'm this way or this way. It's just my personality. But right now I'm training for a Chicago marathon, so my time is running. Literally running. And that's what I choose to spend, you know, the time doing. And my kids support me. You know, every day, Mom, how did your run go? You know, they're aware. How did your miles go? You know, you're going to do 20 on Saturday. You know, so they're my biggest supporters. But that's because we intentionally connect. They actually know what's going on in my life. And that's because I care about what's going on in theirs. So.
With the intent of television, I mean, like I said, I binge watched Blackish. It was just background noise, but I loved watching a lot of it. And obviously with a black family, the mother is a mixed race in the show. There's a lot of different topics that I was able to bring as a topic of conversation for my kids, for my family during dinner time. And we are a screen free at dinner. If my husband brings it to the table, it's not well for him. He
gets dry turkey.
he gets cold turkey. No, just because we want to teach the boys that it's not about the screens, it's about the bonding. And at dinner, because you can ask any kid, how was your day at school? Fine. We play Two Truths and a Lie at dinner, because none of us are together during the day. I'm doing my work, Steve's doing his work, Norm's now in middle school, Jack's at the elementary school. Nobody is together during the day. So Two Truths and a Lie is a great way for them to think of actual specific things that happen to them that then we can discuss. So we make that intentional connection, and I'm going to keep using the word intentional, during dinner time, because that's the time, luckily right now, that we have together. Because usually, we don't have any sports going on right now, other than Scouts on Monday night. We are together almost every night for dinner. So that's our blessing, and that's our time that we can take to bond, to make the kids aware that we are always on top of everything. And I was saying to you before, I'm a heavy volunteer at their schools. Jack is not a fan of it. I know everything that's going on. He's not happy that yet another one of our friends is now teaching at the school. And I'm like, that's just another set of eyes on you. But it makes them aware that we are involved in their lives, and you can't get away with anything. But I think it's raising better kids, raising better humans.
Yeah, and I if I could purchase a broken down car for every family in this state, I would, because cars, I think, are the most amazing, no pun intended, vehicle. Because, and you can do this with partners, you can do this with friends. If you think about just getting into a car and not turning the car on, like you can turn the car on as well and drive, how much you talk when you get into a car. Because you're not doing this. This is very intimidating for a lot of people, right? Like eye contact. It's like, okay, let's talk, And so when you're doing this, especially for people who have a difficult time doing that and having, intimate conversations, it allows for that conversation to flow. So I love it. Like I love just locking and I'm like, okay, it saves gas too, but let's talk. And it happens like at the end of a date, or it happens at the end of if you drop your girlfriend off or your friend, it's like, think about how long you might stay in the car before you get out of it. So I love cars, like any vehicle, but
And like I said, Steve and I did the first date questions, on our way to a concert or a sporting event or whatever. The other thing that we also did, and it ties technology in. There's a lot of people, and like you, that want to disconnect completely. We use it to our advantage. Steve and I, knowing that we'd be in the car for an hour going to whatever event that we were headed to, we each created a playlist for the other. So we listened to my playlist on the way down and listened to his on the way back. It was another way to connect. Like, why did you think of me when you picked this song? So it was just another way to connect, and it was in the car.
Yeah. And you're right. And music is connective. We love Spotify. It's, and again, I listen to things that I have no idea why they were created, but I grin and bear it. And I think, it allows my children to, again, feel like mom gets us, mom hears us. And even if it drives, and they find it funny too. There's this one song that it's called Bitch I'm a Cow. And I'm like, and this woman has made money off of this. And I'm like, oh, and they love it. They'll turn it up. Play that song again. So, and I just smile and drive, I let them be DJ. That's the way it works.
As long as no one says that to me directly. Good.
I don't know. I can't make any promises. They might be singing. Yeah. And I too believe in taking everyone on dates. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean you're gonna have sex at the end of it. It just it could be a friend. I take my girls on individual dates as well. Whatever we need to do, I'm taking my little one tomorrow to the movies. And I think it's crucial. I think just having that alone time with anyone. And again, my phone will be off and everyone will be okay. But I'm not on a soapbox here to ever say to anyone, I have the newest phone and I didn't even realize it. It was just, that was not intentional. And I have no idea what half of it does, but I do believe that the technology is necessary. I believe that it's where we are. It's what we do with it that is the problem, right? Technology isn't the problem. TV isn't the problem. Netflixing is a verb, right? I mean, it is.
Yeah. Binging.
It is. To Netflix.
A different
ING.
term. Yeah.
And that's not, Netflix isn't the problem, it's how we use it. So I do respect it. I think it's just, like you said, the vehicle we use.
It's a great, to use it, to not use it, it's how you're connecting. I took Jack shopping yesterday because Norman's birthday's tomorrow. And I didn't even realize it until we were in the toy aisle at Walmart that it's just Jack and I can pick his brain. And it was such a great conversation to have with him because he's trying to pick the perfect gift for his brother. And they've hit an age where they're not thinking of themselves in picking the gift. They're really thinking of the other. And it was such I just stopped and listened to him because he's like me and just talks. So he just kept going. He's like, well, he would really like this Lego set because it has this character in it. But this one has more pieces, so he would sit and play with it longer. Just to hear his own thought process was just enough for me to stand back and just listen to him. It wasn't an engaging conversation, but just to hear how he was going through picking out the perfect gift for his brother was just so amazing.
You witnessed it.
Yeah. So I know I don't know how much time we have.
We have about 5-6 minutes.
Okay, so we want to ask you guys, what are things that you've done intentionally? What ideas have you put forth, or do you have any other questions?
I helped cultivate an intentional relationship. Well, it was there, but I helped it become even stronger. Knowing what happens during teenage phase. I have 2 girls, and they leave you for a while. You keep talking, but they leave you for a while. So always wanting to know what happens. They built a very strong relationship with my mom. So I was always able to know what's happening because they would go talk to grandma because grandma just listened. Mm-hmm. She wouldn't, she wasn't judgmental, she wasn't anything. She would just listen. So I was always able to be in the loop, but not being directly, poking what they didn't want me to poke in. So this was a very intentional relationship, not for me, but just to make sure that nothing would go unnoticed. And they come back. Yeah, and they did come back.
Well, and I think that's beautiful. It talks about the old adage, the village, right? Mm-hmm. And I too am very fortunate that my parents are amazing. My dad's actually in the practice with me, and my mom is that grandmom. Mm-hmm. And she will, the things that she comes up with in the books and the articles and, all this sharing that we all do. And I think that's beautiful that you've pulled from, the powers that be around too, not just the 4 of you or however many there were of you, but the people around. And I think that's really crucial as well.
I believe in the power of the support group.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It helps keep everybody sane.
Yeah. And everyone has their own gifts, whereas, grandma was able to just listen. And we as moms, we know it all, right? So I'm going to share all my wisdom with you.
We do.
Yeah. I know nothing.
You don't say that out loud, though.
I do.
No, Jack takes care of that for me. It's like, you don't know.
I have a comment. I just noticed that sometimes our devices, to your point, Zoe, or our busyness or technology or whatever it may be, is a comfortable place for us to go so that we avoid the responsibility of an intentional relationship. So I think it's easy to get into that comfort zone because hearing both of you talk, relationships are work. And I think even our kids can see that it's a place to go and an excuse for anybody not to have or be, I'm going to use the word intentional, but it's also responsible for the relationships that we have in our life.
Absolutely, and I think my 6-year-old, well, she's now 7, she turned 7 yesterday, we've dealt with a lot of behavioral issues, and it was so much easier to just say to her, take the iPad and just go in your room, versus dealing with whatever it was, because I'd had enough. So it was self-preservation, but yet I think I probably did more damage, because I taught her, this is what mom does when she can't handle it. And I taught myself that this is an escape. Reversing that is so much more difficult, than dealing with it in the moment. And yeah, we get lost in those things, right? I mean, I think it's beautiful to get lost in a movie or a show, but we forget about books, and I think that's it. It's like, and you had said the cover was beautiful. Like, that's all I need. Yeah. I just need a beautiful cover.
That drives me to it.
Sometimes I'll just stare at the cover, But no, I think that's a beautiful point. But we're all about escape, and we used to escape other ways. I mean, before screens, we found
something.
yeah.
I was going to say, it's funny, my mom's going to be 85 in December, and my dad passed away around 9 years ago. But when I first got married, it's really funny, Shawna, what you were saying about, I've been married for 26 years as of yesterday. Has not always been easy, by any means. She always told me it's about taking care of the turkey. It's funny, when I first got married, my mother gave me a really good piece of advice. She's like, just saying that, she's like, someday you're going to have kids. She's like, if you're lucky, and she's like, and the first thing you're going to want to do is just pay attention to the children. And she said, if you pay attention to what's right in front of you and your husband, and you make it first, she goes, not that your kids are second, but you make that first. She goes, those kids will always be taken care of. She's going to be 85. Best advice she ever gave me. And it's very true. Mm-hmm. And my marriage is not perfect, but one thing I can say that is, I don't have necessarily date days, but we've always had, like, my kids had bedtimes, and we always had quiet time, and whether we're talking about favorite movies or just crap about the day, whatever it is, or arguing about something that's on TV that we disagree, Food Network and Chopped, whatever it is. But we're always communicating, but that's the best advice that my mother ever gave me.
Yeah.
And
Smart
she's
woman.
so true.
I love that.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, she said, take the time, pay attention, foster a relationship. And if your kids become more important than your husband, you're not going to stay married.
No.
And my parents were married for 52 years, so it was a great piece of advice.
Because it
Pass
trickles
along.
down, and that's the thing. When couples come to me, I say, what is the number one relationship in your life? And 9 times out of 10, women especially will say, my children.
Yes,
And I said, well,
true.
you've been having the relationship with the wrong person then.
Yeah.
We need to flip this. And so your mom is a smart
And
woman.
my mother was an amazing mother. I've never felt slighted. I'm so with my
No.
dad, but they definitely took care of each other,
Yes.
and then we were taken care of as well.
And again,
Great piece of
even in that, for people who are single or what have you, because obviously not everyone is always in a
No.
relationship, but being that, then are you taking care of yourself first? And your children don't swoop in and become that most important, and they do. They're okay.
Yep.
They see
don't have to
a
be
loving,
first.
yeah, no, they want healthy.
So somebody forwarded me, and I can share you all, just this photographer took some pictures, black and white pictures, of people together with their phones, and then they took out the phones, and they just showed the people, and it's so isolating and it's so lonely. Like, the first picture is a couple in bed, and they're like this, but their backs are to each other. And so, like, some of them are just, but it shows you, like, how this is, it's not going away, and it's a tool, but it's also made it very isolating for kids and for ourselves. And then the second thing is that we did an intentional vacation this year where we were on an island on the coast of Maine, and the Wi-Fi was very limited. And when I tell you that my kids, like, beach sea glassing and rock finding and hiking, and it was like one of the best vacations we ever had, and they really reconnected with my aunt and their cousins, and it was a long ride, Zoe. It's 15 hours.
I am proud of you.
We did it at night, so some people would be sleeping, but it's a long ride.
Uh-huh. Yep.
No airport. Stephen King's house was close to there though, so I was about ready to drop them off there.
He would have given them some books to read.
Uncle Stephen with a big clown in the back. But yeah, I mean,
She's so funny.
you do learn a lot.
Really quick, the other piece of advice my mom told me was never to have a TV in your bedroom.
Yes.
And
I
do not-
never had
I
one
don't- no,
until
no,
I
no,
got
in-
married. He
no, in my
insisted
bedroom
on
with
it.
my spouse, and I do not have a TV
Nope.
in my bedroom.
Nope. No, never.
So just FYI.
No,
rules of
I-
one, no TV in bed with you and your husband.
No, it's a sanctuary.
Sorry to
Oh,
say.
but you
Yeah.
see, like
Yeah.
we've learned to use it for us. Like there are certain shows now that we just watch us. Like we're not jumping ahead. He's not 6 seasons ahead. Like we made. Trying to even think of one of the shows, like Bob's Burgers and just little shows that we can just laugh together with. Yes, we sit in bed and watch those.
Yeah, just real quick, just a comment. And since I didn't really understand an intentional relationship, I realized that I made an intentional relationship. So I have 3 grown sons. Each of them has a child, but they're no longer with the mothers of those children. So I deal with 3 exes. And it was my intention that I was not going to lose any relationship with my grandkids. So I stayed friends with them.
Yeah.
I call them, they call me, I'll help them out with the kids. It's all very give and take with these 3 women. My boys weren't always happy about that. It took them a long time to sort of come to terms with that, but I just said to them, you know what, this is the way it's going to be.
That's right. And that's your decision.
And on Mother's
Right?
Day, I sent them all a note that, you know, I'm so thankful to have them as my
Wow.
grandchildren's
And that's a
mothers.
gift to your
and-
grandchildren, you know,
Yeah,
to see that.
Absolutely.
So that really was an intentional
Wow.
relationship, and so that's sort of like, oh, I
See,
think I
we're
get
doing it.
I think I get it.
Nobody gave you credit for doing it, right? They didn't say you're intentionally. Yeah, and just to end, too, thank you. There used to be this billboard, and I used to send everyone I knew. It was a religious base, and I don't do religion unless people need me to. And it said, "What have you done for your marriage today?" And you could fill in any word in marriage there. And I said, and people like stop, and they're like, oh my gosh, what have I done for my friendship today? What have I done for my, whatever for myself?
I was about to say the last question that we had was, for yourself, what do you do for yourself?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So that's just a running mantra, that I have, like, what have I done for blank, today?
I like that.
So